Instagram and Facebook. Marcus here. How's everybody doing? Hello, Sunday morning. And if you're on YouTube, if you're tuning in from YouTube or whenever you're watching this. So I want to do a quick little whiskey lesson. Because a lot of people, we see a lot of people that, a lot of people come to the restaurant, they always ask for something like Angel's Envy or Bullet Rye. They ask for these brands, and we always give our little spiel of, we don't sell big brands, and here's why, and here's the reality of some brands, even small brands, even certain small brands we do not touch, we don't sell. So I just want to do a little run through on what you can look for to get a high quality whiskey, or to understand really what you're buying, just understand what you're buying in general. So there's this company out there called MGP, Midwestern Grain Products. MGP is this big, massive company that literally sells everything from livestock feed to barrels of rye. Okay. And hello, good morning, everybody. Got a lot of people on this morning on the channels that we're on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you as well. Appreciate that. So good morning. So a little quick whiskey lesson. So MGP, Midwestern Grain Products. They sell a ton of, they sell literally livestock feed to veggie burger mix to grain products. They sell grain products, okay? Well, they also have a distillery where they mass produce and distill just plain rye, plain whiskey, and they also have a facility in Kansas, I believe. This is where Tito's buys their vodka. So when Tito's says handmade vodka, this and that, Tito's doesn't distill vodka. Tito's is not a distillery. Tito's is a bottler. They buy from this Kansas massive distillery called MGP, Midwestern Grain Products. They bring the vodka to their plant and they special filter it. Or they enhance the product somehow, and then they put it into a bottle, and Tito's has become a very, very successful product. But logistically, they're not a distillery, they're a bottler. So this is how you know the difference when you look at a bottle of booze. So for example, there's this brand up here, Widow Jane. Widow Jane, in the very beginning, I'm not sure if they do anymore. I'm not sure of the facts on this, but I know if you go Google Widow Jane right now and you look up if they're made by MGP, it says it online right now. You can find lots of resources that point Widow Jane to not being the distillery of their whiskey or their rye, to MGP in Indiana making it and them just aging it. So this is how you check this out. So on the bottle, now as a general rule, we typically don't buy. There's two brands that we have that, and we'll admit, that are from MGP, that are from smaller production facilities. I'm going to explain why. I want to be 100% transparent in this little whiskey thing here. So somebody like Hill Rock Distilling, amazing brand. It'll say right on the label, distilled and bottled by Hill Rock. Okay. Here's a brand, Peabody, that we do very well with, Peabody, and it says bottled by Peabody. Doesn't say distilled. Product of Indiana, bottled by Peabody. So this is a brand we use a lot of, and this is made from MGP. Now the other brand that we use that's made from MGP is James Pepper. I'm gonna explain why, because typically I don't like to do, or I won't buy things that are made from MGP and then bottled. But there's an exception for these two products. I'm going to say why in a moment here. But I want to go through some of the brands that you may not be aware of that are actually made by MGP, that are then bottled, and some of them times you're paying a premium price for this stuff. Okay, so here we go from the top down. This is alphabetical order. There's probably 100 or so brands, literally 100 or so brands. Okay, so the first one on the list, the very first distillery on this alphabetical list of distilleries that buy bulk. So what happens is MGP, Midwestern Grain Products, they sell barrels of whiskey out the door. Then a bottler buys it, like Templeton, 1776. Angel's Envy is the first one on the list. So they buy the barrels, bring them into their possession. They don't distill, they don't buy grain, they buy the whiskey that's already in the barrels. They keep the whiskey in their possession in the barrels for a certain amount of time, and then they put it into a bottle and they sell it as their brand. In reality, when you see rye that is made from 95% rye, 95.5 is the mash bill, 95% rye, 5% corn, I believe, 95.5, that's MGP's standard recipe. Everybody's buying the same exact thing. So this bottle of rye right here, this is bourbon, but Mr. Peabody's rye and Angel's Envy rye is 95.5. It comes from the same distillery, the very same distillery. It's the same recipe. It's the same production method. The only thing that difference is how long they keep it into the barrel. And sometimes they might put it into a second barrel, very, very rare occasions. So this retail for $25 is the same recipe that Angel's Envy uses. And Angel's Envy is what, $100, $125? Same exact recipe, folks. That's it, same recipe. Templeton rye, same exact recipe. It's the same source. 95% rye, 5% corn, bought from MGP. Now here we go. I'm going to go down the list. Angel's Envy. These are all things that are bought, that are made by MGP, that then a company buys them and puts their label on them after they age them to their specifications. Aztec, Backbone, Barrel, Batchers, Bearded, Bella Mead, Big Ass Bourbon, Big Bottom Bourbon, Big House Bourbon, Big Y Rye. The list goes on. This is just B's. Booze Brothers Bourbon, Bower Hill, Breaker Bourbon, Bull Run, Bullet Rye, owned by Diageo, buys from MGP, Katie Bourbon, Cascadia Bourbon, Chattanooga Whiskey, Clarion, Cleveland, Cloud Batch, Coney Island, Copper City, Cornstar, Cougar Bourbon, Country Smooth. That's only the C's right now. I'm only on the C's. Now I'm going to go into the D's. I'm not going to bore you with all that, but I'll pull up some of the bigger brands that are actually doing this. George Dickel. George Dickel's one. High West, which was a great distillery, by the way. Loved High West. Supported them for years out of Park City, Utah. They recently sold to Diageo, maybe. They now purchased some stuff that are blended in from MGP. And again, folks, Tito's Vodka is MGP from Kansas. They buy the vodka already made. So a lot of these products, like these liqueurs and stuff, they're just buying, even like things like Aperol types of, they buy neutral grade spirits that are made in bulk from somewhere else and just finish them to their specifications. They're not distillers, they're bottlers. James Pepper. Now, James Pepper is a brand that we support, okay? 1776 rye. We know the owner. We see him every single year. We shake hands. We take a picture together. We talk about the industry together. We have a great time every single year. We see him every single September. He has been with MGP since the very beginning. He was one of the very first brands to go on board with MGP doing this. He has now expanded and built his own distillery. They're now aging their own product, which will be available by, I think he said, next year or so. And they will switch 100% over. 100% over their production will be switched to everything that they bottle and distill. Okay. All right. We have a question. Why am I naming all these? All these that I'm naming are ones that MGP, Midwestern Grain Products, sell, buy, makes the barrels, and all these companies buy them. And when I was making a reference to, it's like Angel's Envy. This is the same exact recipe. $25, $125, same source, same distillery, same brand. So every brand I'm reading is made from the same exact distillery. Every brand that I was going down and reading. Now, Mr. Peabody, it took me a while to buy this. I like this product. It took me a while to buy it. And I got to tell you, every time I see the owner, Dave, and every time I pick up the phone and call the distillery, he answers the phone. The owner answers the phone. And he's like, Marcus, there's nothing that I'm deceiving. Everything's transparent. I do buy my product from MGP. That's how I keep my costs down. At some point, I will build a distillery. We'll do that. But he goes, right now I have to decide, because I'm a one-man show. I have to decide if I want to distill or sell product, bottle and sell product. He goes, so I decided to bottle and sell product. As my business grows, then I can bring on. He goes, I didn't start with $1 million, Marcus. He goes, I didn't do that. because I bought barrels. I put a label on it, and now I'm building and building. He goes, I'm doing the American dream. But every time I call there, he answers the phone personally and knows who I am and thanks me for his business. That goes a long way in my role, because Jamie and I are built on relationships, okay? We like to call it relationship to table, relationship to glass. Farmer table is great, relationship to table is awesome. Okay, so that's why I support these two brands, okay? Because I know the owner very well. He's switching over 100%. And this guy is just an awesome guy, grateful for the business, doing his American dream, small budget, and kicking butt doing it. So that's why we buy those two. I'm going to keep reading off the list of more so that are on here, just so you know. So again, the list I'm reading off is a list of spirit companies, rye, whiskey, bourbon companies in America that basically go to one source, MGP in Indiana, Midwestern Grain Products. Midwestern Grain Products distills everything. And then they finish, these bottlers finish, Angel's Envy finishes, all these companies finish, he finishes, well, not much anymore. And by the way, they do tours in the distillery in Tennessee. Amazing operation. Again, he started small like he did and just kept growing and growing and growing, and now has his own operation, big, full scale, really awesome operation. Really good guys here, 1776 James Pepper. So I'm gonna keep reading down this list. Lost Republic, Lamont Rye, Maryland Club, Maryland Mosswood, Old Bones Bourbon, Old Hickory Bourbon, Old Center, Pinhook, Pritchard's Rye. We know Pritchard. We've been to the distillery. We met him many times. We don't buy his rye, but we buy his double barrel bourbon, which he distills that. He doesn't distill his rye, and it's listed here. Amazing product. But Pritchard makes his double barrel bourbon. I actually trademarked his double barrel bourbon. Somebody's asking, when's the next trip? The next trip to Italy is next November, 6th to 15th. We should do a trip to distilleries as well here in the U.S. We might pull off a trip. There's a small possibility we might pull off a trip to Santa Barbara next August, because I have to go there anyway for a speech. So we might say, hey, 10 people join us, 12 people join us. Let's say get a Fess Parker, to Fox in Santa Barbara Winery, to some of our favorite wineries that we've actually personally been to. Rough Rider Bourbon and Rye from Long Island is an MGP product. Locally owned, nice. They make a great vodka. Smokin' Joe's, the list goes on and on. Smuggler's Notch Rye. Smuggler's Notch makes a bourbon, but I believe they don't make their rye, right? Smuggler's Notch Rye. Because rye is the most common thing that MGP makes, again. 95.5. Folks, Templeton, Smugglers, Angel's Envy, Willet Rye, all these Whistle Pig's on the list. Whistle Pig, which I've known for a long time. Widow Jane, that's it locally here. It's listed on this list right here. I don't know what they're doing now, but years ago they were buying it. Widow Jane got into some controversy because they put product of New York on it when they were buying it from Indiana, and they broke liquor laws. They broke New York State liquor laws, Widow Jane. Widow Jane's not, by the way, associated with the Century House, the nonprofit that's in charge of the Widow Jane mine. The people who own the Widow Jane mine are not related to Widow Jane rye or bourbon. They're not related whatsoever, okay? In fact, there's a dispute there. There is a dispute there because people think that every time they buy a bottle of Widow Jane, that they're supporting the Century House nonprofit, and the money's going to preserve the Widow Jane mine. That's not the case at all. Widow Jane is made by Cacao, or they're bottled by Cacao Pareto Distillery in Brooklyn, I think, which makes chocolate liqueur, coffee liqueur. They make some cool stuff, but their rye on this list, according to this list I'm reading, it may have changed, they're buying it from MGP. So whether you buy Angel's Envy, Whistle Pig, Widow Jane, or this for a fraction of those prices, folks, it's the same recipe. It's 95% rye, 5% corn, made in the same exact plant. It's made in the same exact plant. There is no difference of its origin. The difference is, again, the finishing. Willet Rye is on here, Widow Jane, White Heart Bourbon, Whistle Pig, Virginia Black, Untitled No. 1, Troubadour, Tin Cup Whiskey, which is from Proximo, Temptation Bourbon, Templeton Rye, Temperance, Taos Lightning, Stout Heart Bourbon, Stauven Barrel Bourbon, Spring Mill Bourbon, Spirit of America Bourbon, Smuggler's Notch. So that's the rundown. This is your quick guide to understanding where your whiskey's from. Go to the back of the bottle and see if it's bottled by them or distilled and bottled by them, produced by them. If it says bottled by the distillery name, the distillery name on here, bottled by, means they don't make the start of it. They just finish it. So I'm not saying certain things are wrong in this aspect. I just want you to know, it's a quick guide for you to understand the deal with that. Okay, if you like Angel's Envy and you want to pay $125 for Angel's Envy or whatever it costs, keep in mind that this bottle of $25 rye was made in the same place, same recipe, same barrels. Okay, the only thing difference is maybe the end aging process. Okay, that's it. Maybe the way they cut it with water. Widow Jane's big claim to fame is that they're cutting it with Widow Jane water. I believe, don't hold me to this, but I believe that they never really said they were making it with the water. They were just cutting it with the water. So, because everything comes out of the cask at cask strength, which is a high alcohol, and you have to add water to it to bring it down to 86 or 90, whatever proof your destination is. You have to bring it down to that. So now you can go and buy cask strength whiskeys, which are going to be 100 proof, 115 proof, 99 proof, 104 proof. Each cask can differ. So that's the issue with that, or the deal with that, or the insight on that. So hopefully that's your little guide to bourbon whiskeys, and we should do one on vodkas too. Or I should do one on vodkas because again, Tito's folks, they don't distill. They buy it pre-made from MGP, and then they finish it to their specifications. It's already made. It's a product from MGP from Kansas. They buy it in bulk, and they bring it to their facility and do special filtration. So it's not directly just the product from it. They're added touch on it. So, but this stuff can be very, very deceiving for the public because you don't know when you walk into a store really what you're buying. And honestly, if you have a choice to buy something that was grown at a local farm, that was then made from a local distillery, that supports a local community, that's everything local, I think you should have to know that information and say, you know what, instead of buying Angel's Envy, I'm going to buy a bottle of Hill Rock. I'll probably save a few bucks too, by the way. I'm going to buy a bottle of Hill Rock rye or Hill Rock bourbon or Hill Rock's award-winning whiskey, single malt, because I know that if I'm in New York, this is truly local. They're like a farm distillery. Everything's sourced from within like 10 miles from the area there. We're getting this one called Unbourbon or something from upstate New York. It's costing us like $65 a bottle wholesale. And they actually grow everything. They're a farm distillery. They actually grow everything that they distill, which is really, really cool. So I think if you're going to pay that kind of money, if you're going into the Templeton price range, Angel's Envy price range, that you should actually know that, hey, I have choices. I really have choices of making a choice that's going to impact a local community, local jobs, local farmers. Folks, MGP is not making anything organic. They're buying stuff in massive quantities in the Midwest. We just had Black Horse Farm join us. I love Black Horse. They're a farm up in south of Albany that is a great operation that they do up there. They provide an amazing array of, I think they're GAP certified up there, which means they're doing an organic-like process, avoiding chemicals and stuff like that. We buy a lot of stuff from them, especially in season. So they would appreciate this conversation we're having on Instagram or on Facebook and YouTube right now of how MGP is just this massive grain producer, or they don't even produce grain. They just buy the grain in, right? They're buying it from whatever farm they can, non-organic. And that's the stuff that's going into your bottles of rye and bourbon that Angel's Envy is buying, that Templeton's buying, that all these companies are actually buying. So for us, I'd rather make money on stuff like this. I'd rather support a guy like this who is now transitioning, and I'd rather support a guy like this who is just an amazing guy who has a great vision, and I know will succeed because he's like, man, this is my goals. These are what I'm setting on, and he makes a great product, and he's so personable. So, all right, folks, thanks for tuning in wherever you tuned in on that. I appreciate the support, really appreciate the support. And Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Thanksgiving just ended, so happy holidays to everybody, and thanks again for all the support. If you want to donate to our Christmas Day Soup Kitchen, check out the link in our Instagram profile. Click it, go to the homepage. If you're on our Facebook watching, go to our banner, click the link there, the banner photo, follow the link there, and you can go to our GoFundMe. We feed about 750, up to 750, 550 to 750 every single year, no questions asked Christmas day. I'm about $3,000 short right now. I'm raising funds to pull it off, so it doesn't cost us out of pocket. So it costs us on a massive amount of time, Jamie and I, to pull this off. But so we don't have to pay anything out of pocket. We're about $3,000 short on our donation list. So if anybody can help out with that, that's fantastic. Just $5 will help us feed one more person, cover the cost of one more person. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll talk to you later.